TalkSTL.com. Real spoilers with Tom O'Keefe.
Warning, the following film discussion will ruin the ending of any movie you haven't seen. Example, Bruce Willis is dead at the end of The Sixth Sense. See how I ruined it for you? Just like that. Here are a few more.
Silent breed is people!
I am your father.
Get it?
TalkSTL.com. Real spoilers. You've been warned. Here's Tom O'Keefe.
Hi, and welcome to the inaugural, I can't say that word, inaugural, first?
Good enough.
The premiere episode of Real Spoilers. I'm Tom O'Keefe, and we're going around the room and just introduce everybody. And we'll start to my left, right, the hand I write with. Oh, with the pins in it. I can't remember your last name. Say your last name.
I will say my last name. My last name is Joe Batisi.
And why are you here? Give us some background.
I am the resident comic book aficionado, if you will, for Review STL. So I think they brought me in as the guy who knows the stuff from the books.
Gotcha.
And can compare it to the movie.
Awesome.
So that's why I'm here.
Perfect. So, and as we go down this, I'll start to know people better, so that's good. Up here next is Dan Graney, who some people might or might not remember from the Points Morning Show back in the day as Dan the Movie Man. And I'd like to point out the only person in the room ever quoted on a film poster.
Wrong. This is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which film poster was that?
How did you forget about that?
Generations, right?
It was one of the Star Trek one. I think it was Generations. You were blurbed on a poster, dude.
It was Generations, but
how do you
I don't even know
that?
why, because
you said something nice about it.
I did. I honestly, I think I said something like slam bang, which is, and I don't think I was talking about the movie, but, because it's not slammy bangy.
Yeah. That's why they seized on it.
Yeah, so.
So that is Dan's background.
Hi, everyone.
And up next is Blake, also from Review STL.
Yep, I started the site with Kevin a few years back, and we've been trying to get a podcast going for a while. However, I have been quoted on a movie poster as well.
You have? What movie poster?
The Square. Joel Edgerton and his brother did a movie. It was a film noir. Was it three years ago? And I'm on the Australian movie poster and DVD.
Oh man!
Wow.
It says "Good day, mate."
Yeah. So
That's the tag. That's the tagline on the poster.
Throw another hit on the Barbie.
They were supposed to send me copies, and they never sent me because I was like, "This is cool. I will never. This is like the only accomplishment I'll ever have." And they didn't send it.
They're still on a boat.
Yeah.
Well, you're still on a better movie.
Yeah.
Well, it might not be better, but a bigger movie. How about
It is bigger, but the Square. I mean,
Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars, so it was a solid movie. So and still they used me.
Right. Did they use Ebert at all?
I don't think so.
Well, what is that
not in
about?
Australia. He has no weight.
Yeah.
He has no weight anywhere now.
I was gonna stay away from a dead
There
joke,
it
but I
is.
let it
Here
go.
we go.
I'm not above it. Okay, and last but not least is Blake's lovely bride, Kevin, also from Review STL.
What do you say to that? So I think when we started the site back in 2007 or 2008. 2008. I mean, that's 5 years ago. Geez, it flew by. And yeah, I can't believe we're just now doing a podcast, but happy to do it. Run the site with Blake, write reviews. We do theater, concerts, sometimes restaurants, all sorts of stuff. But I think movies are primarily it for me and everybody else here. So that's kind of our thing.
Sure, and the point of the podcast, let's just circle back around to what brings us here today is we're going to talk about movies, but we're going to talk about movies in depth. We're going to talk about movies in a way we're going to assume that you have, one, either already seen the movie, or two, you really don't care if you know what happens in the movie or have the movie spoiled. Hence the name Real Spoilers. It's with real with 2 E's. See what we did there? And
Clever.
So we're going to talk about movies with plot points. So if we just saw Empire Strikes Back, we're going to tell you that Darth Vader is Luke.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert!
Whoa!
Here.
If we saw The Crying Game, we're going to tell you it's a dude. Like that's what we're going to talk about. What? Yeah. So that's why we put it right up front, so everybody knows. And so we're going to kick off. Probably spend the whole episode drilling down on Man of Steel. And I know some of us want to drill down on Man of Steel more than others. So for some, that might be homoerotic. Some of us just don't like it. But so I guess maybe we should go around and just kind of get a feel for where people landed on this film. We'll start with the comic book guy, Joe. What did you think of Man of Steel?
Coming in, I was really worried that they were going to try to duplicate what they did with Richard Donner's 1978 Superman. They went a completely different direction. I thought it was a breath of fresh air to get away from that, to get away from Superman Returns and the Superman movies of old. I thought it looked beautiful. I loved every piece of this movie. I'm sure we will get into there's very few things that I didn't like.
I heard that you did not like the font and the closing credits. Is that?
No, it was terrible.
Okay,
yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan
Comic
at all.
Sans, right? It's a comic movie.
Yeah,
well,
I see what they tried to do there.
Yeah.
Papyrus. They should have gone with Papyrus. Always go with
Helvetica
Papyrus.
is always a good one. But I thought it was a nice start to hopefully something bigger down the line for Warner Brothers and DC Comics.
Awesome, Dan.
I too was a fan of the movie. I kind of thought I knew what to expect once Nolan was involved with it, Goyer was involved with it, and then when Zack Snyder was brought on board. Because for years, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I honestly thought that maybe Michael Bay had his niche in a Superman movie.
I don't think that that's as crazy as it sounds, because I mean, you just want something bombastic.
He's
and he
the
can
guy.
deliver bombastic.
He's got jingoism. He's got explosions, real good. So, but when Nolan was brought on board, I kind of thought I knew what to expect, and it fulfilled those expectations. It wasn't, an homage to Donner, because we just saw that just a few years ago with Bryan Singer's version, which I actually enjoy.
Oh, it's so bad.
See, there you go. See, I enjoy it, but I also know that, I mean, there's serious just lulls in that movie.
Yeah.
There's a pretty major lack of action, and
I think there's like 2 big points, right? Like it's the catching of the spaceship and moving into
yeah,
space.
I mean, there's not much going on, but I love the Donner movies,
The first one and a half.
first, well, yeah, 1.5,
1.5 of the Donner.
and I don't even mind either Superman 2, but this felt it was fresh, and it was. And we've talked about this. We'll probably talk about this more. I felt like I understood where it was coming from, and I understood that they were creating sort of the basis in a way that Casino Royale, and maybe even more so Skyfall, establishes what the character will be from now on.
Right, laying the groundwork.
Oh yeah, they definitely did a good job setting everything up for a sequel. See, I came in the middle of everything. Like we have some people at the table who absolutely loved it. Some people who just thought it was okay. I was kind of there was moments I just absolutely despised about the movie. I thought the script was really, really lazy at certain points, and I thought, and I also just thought some of the dialogue was just really bad. Like they're terraforming. Like, oh God, I wanted to punch someone in the face for that.
Yeah,
line.
I cringe too whenever a character has to like give you a bullet point from their own resume. I'm a Pulitzer Prize running.
Oh, I hate when they do stuff like that, and that is probably one of the biggest downfalls of this movie is they're not capable of figuring out how to do that in a way that doesn't come across as they're trying to give you a bullet point.
Yeah, just lazy exposition. And also, I think the worst line in the whole movie, and she didn't say it ironically, is what really mystified me. And I know this is a very, very minor point, but I was just like, what? Was, what if I have to tinkle? What? Like, why did that get said? Like, how did that make it past the first?
that?
She says that. When they
Lois Lane says that?
Lois Lane says that. When she
when
can't,
they
when they're
lock her
like, you
up
can't,
and,
you're about to lock her up, she's like, but what if I have to tinkle?
Yeah,
and
at the
she's,
very
I
beginning,
completely forgot about that.
when they lock her in the cargo container. She's I could, but there's probably a good 20-30 of those moments, and I noticed more. Oh, and by the way, there are flying penises in this movie. Did anybody see that?
I was too focused on baby penis, to be perfectly honest. Did I need baby penis twice?
Right when they're setting Zod and the crew up, it's like there's like 12 flying dildos going up to the Phantom Zone.
Oh, yeah, like the ice thing.
Yeah,
The ice
they
sculpture.
look like giant dildos. Like it's pretty awful. Like I can't believe no one watched the movie and like, are we really putting dicks into this movie? But yeah, no, I felt somewhere in the middle. I liked it. I thought it was a great setup for a second part. But I thought it could have been better. I mean, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's awful. It was kind of meh for me. You know?
Okay, Kevin.
I definitely can see the points you guys are making. I mean, the dialogue things, we've had lengthy discussions about this type of stuff.
And I should, in the interest of full disclosure, say that Kevin is wearing a Superman shirt and drinking from a Superman mug You're like, and Joe's the same way. He's got a Superman shirt on. They're like the guys that go to the Styx concert wearing the Styx shirt.
You support your band, man. You support your band.
You support your team. Your band. The band already knows that you like them.
Yeah, we knew what we were up against here. Tom and I have had some lengthy conversations, as I'm sure we all have together. But Tom and I have really been on opposite sides of the spectrum here. I get the dialogue stuff. I definitely get the lazy exposition, some of that stuff. But I also think that a lot of the stuff was so complicated, especially to people that don't know Superman, that people would have to have it explained to them. So I agree they could do it better, but a lot of those points didn't ruin it for me. I thought this was a direct response to Superman Returns.
I would absolutely agree with that.
There was no action.
100% correct.
There was no action in Superman Returns, and so what everybody said was he doesn't even throw a punch. There's no action. Nothing happens, right? So they get Zack Snyder, who knows action. They bring him on to do this, and there's so much action, but it's what people wanted. It's what I wanted from a Superman movie. And so when things that happen in all the summer blockbusters happen, I don't look at it as they're trying to make a, Citizens Kane or Schindler's List here. They're trying to make a summer blockbuster, a fun movie with superheroes, which arguably, you could say it's not fun, but I found it a lot of fun, and it was exactly the Superman movie I wanted.
So that's what saved it for me. I thought it was fun. Like, the action is incredible. The movement of the character, that is what Superman needs to be doing in the movie. Running as fast as a bullet to get out of the way, and just lining up a punch from a mile away in the sky. That kind of stuff is what Superman needed to.
I'll agree. The look of the movie is amazing. It's a great looking movie, and my complaint with the movie isn't about the action. I can have some complaint. I have some quibbles with the movie about what the results of the action might have been, but with the actual enjoyment of watch, you go to a Superman movie, you want a slugfest, and you get a slugfest. That you certainly can't complain about that.
There was actually one scene in the final battle where Superman is in a crater, and literally he just kind of comes up like a jet. He's perpendicular to the ground, and he just kind of comes up and he's looking straight at Zod. And it was that one scene that I thought was they get it. They get that he can do, I don't think that's one of the, you see the Donner stuff where he's got his hands behind his back, or, he's flying, and you believe it. In this one,
that was the tagline.
He moves like
you will believe.
Exactly. Yeah. And this one, he moves like a jet. He doesn't, that's what I'm saying. He banks and he does all that other stuff, right. But just going up and down like a jet. I think they get that idea of what he can do with his powers.
And they took, I don't want to say stole, because they paid for the rights to Superman, they can use it, but they took, I'm sure they took a lot of that straight from comics.
Absolutely. Jim Lee, Alex Ross.
We're straight from the comics.
Neil Adams.
Well, a lot of the story is, too. Birthright,
and
All-Star Superman.
And All-Star Superman are all heavily referenced in there. And
some of the dialogue is cut and pasted from some of the Mark Waid
scene where he's in the church in Smallville, I believe, and he's talking to a priest. That is literally scene for scene out of Jim Lee and Brian Azzarello's run on Superman. The title of the story was For Tomorrow, and it was kind of a story where Superman doesn't really know where he fits in,
right?
And he goes and talks to this priest, and it's there's a scene where the priest is sitting down on a pew, and he kind of looks up, and there's Superman in a very Christ-like imagery. There was a lot of Christ-like imagery in this movie.
It was not subtle.
No, not at all.
It's amazing that a story by two Jews has probably one of the most powerful Christ figures of all time.
It's funny, everybody talks about it as a Christ allegory, and it's it was written by two Jewish boys. It's I don't think that's
Cleveland.
What they were intending.
Has anyone here read The Adventures of Amazing Adventures of Cavill and Clay? They kind of go into that a little bit in the story. And with the Jewish golem and stuff like that, and they kind of because the Escapist is kind of like a mix between how Superman and Captain America and all these other Golden Age heroes came about.
Right.
Definitely worth a read. Probably one of the most beautiful written books I've ever read.
Yeah, in my life. Didn't it win a Lois Lane herself didn't win a Pulitzer?
Oh yeah, won a Pulitzer Prize.
I think she won hers first.
Well, obviously,
probably. If she was here,
she had to tinkle.
If she was here, she would.
With adjectives like tinkle, how could you not?
It writes itself.
One of the things, and one of my responses to a lot of the hate the movie's getting, a lot of people are, the Christ imagery. People are talking about that, or people are talking about the dialogue, which some of it is written and not written that great, but a lot of it is straight out of the comic books, and a lot of the other problems that we'll go into later are in the comic books, and so when people say that, oh, Superman wouldn't do this, or it was stupid, or why are they comparing it to Christ? I mean, the Kents found this child, and the whole thing is very Christ-like. I mean, even though they were Jewish, the guys that created it, it's still the whole thing, and it always has been.
It's a monomyth. I mean, a monomyth is always going to have a Christ figure. Harry Potter is a Christ figure.
Right. That's a very common theme in stories. And so, like, I don't have a problem with the Christ imagery. I think it's a little heavy-handed. But I thought it was a little, I don't know, like, it's, as someone who reads the comics, it's like this isn't new to me, so it's kind of like, it kind of felt a little rehashed. But I get how if you're not a comic book reader, that might blow your mind a little bit more than it does mine.
Yeah, I think when they make the comparison to the non-comic book reader, just kind of like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, there he is as a kid, there he is as a teenager, and there he is at... I found it funny.
33?
They make they make it a point to tell you, like Clark tells you, he's like, I'm 33 years old. It's kind of like, all right, right on. Well, I see what you did there.
Yeah, so that's the exact thing. So
And for the as for the dialogue being lifted from the comics, and that's why it's wooden, I would say, well, that's a screenwriter's job to fix that. Just because something reads well, because the comic book writers, they're writing to be read, they're not writing to be heard. And so I think like when it's wooden, and I think most of the dialogue I had problems with that wasn't from the comic. That was new.
No, I think some of like the stuff from the comic was probably some of the best lines in the film.
I agree. The stuff
when you're reading stuff from like someone like Alan Moore or something like that, where you're taking bits of his. I mean, there's a reason why he's one of the greatest comic writers of all time.
Right.
Even though he's going completely insane.
He's bonkers.
We'll talk about that now.
He didn't have very far to go. That was a short drive.
So I'm obviously not talking about the poor dialogue and the tinkle thing, which is ridiculous. I mean, that stood out like a sore thumb to me too. I mean, but in a movie like Superman, in a summer blockbuster where I guarantee you, out of the $240 million it's already made in a few days, the majority of the viewers are not comic book readers, so they're not making it just for comic book fans.
Nor should they.
I also think they learned their lesson with Watchmen. I think when Zack Snyder directed Watchmen, that was porn for the comic book community.
Yeah.
The fact that he took it word for word, scene for scene, shot for shot.
I mean, he treated that comic book like it was a storyboard.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
He was structuring that. There are 80% of that movie is probably visually in the comic.
I don't think he had to do a lot of work with that one.
No,
it was kind of
not
like,
at all.
oh, here, look at this. Oh, okay, I can do that.
Make it look like this. I'll be over at catering.
So I think that I'm glad that he did not do that with this one, just because there are so many different interpretations of the character.
Yeah, I think I don't think he could have if he wanted to, short of saying, I'm going to pick these 4 issues and film them.
Right.
He that just wasn't an option, so he kind of couldn't.
I compare it to I called it the John Blake effect, where if in The Dark Knight Rises they took parts of Dick Grayson, they took parts of Jason Todd, parts of Tim Drake, and made that one character.
Right.
And I feel like that's what they did with this. I think they took stuff from Birthright. I think they took stuff from John Byrne's Man of Steel reboot in '87.
Absolutely.
They took stuff from All-Star Superman, and they even took a little bit from Jeff Johns' New Krypton. I believe that was the name of it. Is that right?
Yeah, they did.
Is that right? That was the name of it? You should think I'm asking you. You should be asking me these questions.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Taking it
And he took
agree with you or be mean to you. What is that about?
And he took bits and pieces from that.
Did you learn on a farm?
Right.
Sorry.
I did find it weird. He was like, I grew up on a farm in Kansas. I was like, well, you just told him where you came from, you dumbass. Way to go.
Let's not get to that yet. But
Right,
yeah,
sorry.
those are the type of things that for a person like me who did love it, I cringed at. But I think going back to my earlier point, it didn't ruin the movie for me. But
No, not at all. Not
but
for me
those
either.
are little things that I can look past because it was so fun. So but yeah, that's
Well, I guess let's tackle the biggest spoiler head on, and I think this is the biggest piece of controversy surrounding the film, which is, of course, that Superman kills a guy.
I thought it was gonna be that Lois Lane was redheaded.
I just thought it didn't bother me. That honestly, the Lois Lane thing didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to. No, because Amy Adams was great. Like that's what it came.
She's
down
been
to.
about like every different color. Girls dye their hair. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you go back far enough, you'll find a redheaded version of Lois Lane.
Yeah, she's called Lana
Actually,
Lang. That's what that is.
I was at Six Flags St. Louis a couple weeks ago, and at the Superman ride, the Lois Lane that they have up on there, which all the characters in there drawn by Jim Lee, she's a redheaded
Really?
Lois Lane. Yep.
Think that's a recent change, or
I'm not sure.
She's definitely. I'll tell you right now. In the comics, she is still like black hair.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the most controversial part of the movie.
Well, forget that other thing.
Yeah, forget about it. So let's tackle the death. And this was and I have a lot of sticking points, but let's call it real spoilers. We told him
you have been warned.
He died.
Folks. You like that?
Let's tackle the death. When he kills Zod, where do we stand on that? I was horrified, not from a moral standpoint, because I don't care. If a character wants to kill a character in another movie, even an ostensibly heroic character, I don't mind. But to me, that is not what Superman does. Superman does not kill, and people will point out one or two stray panels or storylines from issues over the years, but within continuity, that's not his go-to. And so on his first day on the job, the first guy he has to battle, he's like, screw it, I'm gonna snap his neck.
But don't you think that your first day on the job, when you're a young Superman who has no idea what you're doing, that it is actually more realistic? And this is in the more realistic Nolan type of Batman universe. This Superman's the more realistic. And your first day on the job, you don't know your powers. You've never fought someone from Krypton that can match you and is actually, in my opinion, your physical better, because he's trained for his entire life and was born to do this. He comes to Earth and gets the same powers. He's probably going to be stronger, and Superman has to figure out what to do with that.
Well, I would say Superman should have a better mastery of his powers because he's had them his whole life. This is all new stuff to him.
They established it.
He's like Bambi on ice.
He doesn't though. He doesn't start flying until that scene when he puts the suit on.
Right.
He can't. He didn't know he could fly.
That was brand new.
Yeah, he's doing the leap tall buildings. Then all of a sudden,
but they did establish earlier in the movie that he had mastery over his senses and stuff.
Right.
That Zod didn't. But Zod, they also do make the fact that he's trained for it, so he's able to acclimate to these new abilities faster than Superman.
adapted.
I think it comes down to I don't see why this is getting as much controversy as any other superhero movie of the past 15 years, because almost every single superhero of the past 15 years is ended with since the original Superman, you have all these people die off screen, and this time they chose to kill the person on screen.
I think that's the key, is off screen, because historically comic books is a standard trope in comic books used time and time again, though, but is that the villain dies off screen and they always end up bringing them back.
In the comics, they have so much. They have a monthly release that they're able to bring these people back.
Absolutely.
Where audiences, I don't think, are going to buy into the fact that this guy's going to be rotten in prison. It's one thing when it's the Joker, who has no other ability other than being a psychotic, right? When it's Zod, who is literally the most powerful person who could be on the planet, I think it's going to be hard for audience to grasp that, especially after they just destroyed the Phantom Zone, which this could all been fixed if they had just done.
Yeah, some of this is you have to. When you're having, I feel like when you're having the debate about whether or not he should kill, it's I don't really even feel like you can use the plot points of the movie, because they could change the plot points. That's just. But
if he was in that situation, I don't see any other way he could get out of it, and that's why I'm not that.
And I guess I would argue that Superman is so powerful. To me, I think Superman would have to be the hardest comic book character of all of them to write, because one, by his very nature, he's kind of bland. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
He can be very one-dimensional.
He's so good that he can be a little boring, and he's so powerful that there are very few things that truly are a challenge to him physically. And so, from just a writing standpoint. And I'm not even talking about the morality of the character, just from a writing standpoint, it's part of what makes the comic books enjoyable is that they would place him in situations like that, and then he has to devise ways to get out without killing. And so for them to go to this as their go-to in their very first movie felt very lazy to me. And I'm not necessarily morally opposed to the concept of him killing Zod. I could have been sold on that. And there's actually an article Dan sent to me, but I had seen it already. But Dan sent me this article, and an interview from, what is this from? Is this from Variety? No, HitFix. This was from HitFix, right? Mm-hmm. And have you seen this with Christopher Nolan talking about that Christopher Nolan...
I saw that where he said he was initially...
he was initially opposed to the idea of him killing Zod. And he said that they decided that they wanted to kill Zod, and that and David Goyer wrote it up and showed it to him. It's here's what we want to do instead, because originally they were going to send him back to the Phantom Zone. And he said, and Christopher Nolan was opposed to it because he says Superman doesn't kill. And then Goyer comes back and says that he wanted to basically give an origin story as to why Superman doesn't kill, and that this is going to be the reason that Superman does have the no kill policy.
And that is the exact point I made before. I've never even seen that interview. I said from now on,
I made the same point.
And I'll say to David Goyer the same thing that I said to you, which is that's a really good point. You should put it in your movie sometime because that's not in the movie.
Yeah, I got it.
I feel like it is in the movie. I feel like that. So he's in the situation he's in. He snaps the neck, and then he lets out
in front of a family of 4.
Well, a family.
He
saves that family,
which were soon to be a family of 8. So
he lets out this guttural scream.
Sure,
where he's like, I think.
And remember the next scene when he said nothing. And then the scene after that, where it had no impact. It has no impact.
I think it's their tentpole movie, and they're not going to end it, which is supposed to kick off this franchise on a down note. But they did it to make a movie that audiences would come out of, be happy, and not end it on a down. But I got it.
They wanted to end on an upbeat note. So it would be a hit movie like Dark Knight and Batman Begins. Those didn't end on upbeat notes.
Here's the thing, though. And I was going to bring up Batman Begins. I don't remember this amount of ire from the internet when Batman lets Ra's al Ghul die in the first one. And I don't care what you say, him jumping out of there and right 2 seconds before it impacts is the same as killing.
He also drops a line where he's like, "Yeah, I don't have to save you either."
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would say that there's a difference, and it's a thin line, but there's a difference between not saving someone and killing someone.
In the comic books, how many times does Batman make that choice?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to not save one, or to
Batman makes that choice, walks that line a lot. I think with people to where he's like he doesn't necessarily go out of his way to save the bad guy.
See, my thing
he's
is
done that quite
Batman.
A bit. He locked KG Beast in 10 Nights of the Beast. He locked KG Beast in some sewer thing and was just walked away. And he eventually
he's a heartless bastard. That's why he's awesome.
Yeah, and I think also
is that part of the canon and the continuity?
It's part of pre-52 continuity.
Well, yeah, but for a long enough time, I think to say that that's part of the character.
Yeah, it's after Infinite Crisis.
But I also think the difference there too is that the difference between Batman and Superman, for me, is that Batman doesn't kill. Neither of them kill people. Batman doesn't kill people, but he really effing wants to. Where Superman doesn't want to kill people. It's not only that he doesn't kill people. That's not on his list of things to do. He has no desire to go around.
Was it in this movie?
No,
it didn't seem to me like
I don't feel like he wanted to kill Zod. I think he was faced with a choice where he's like, do I choose Krypton or do I choose Earth?
But because of that, I think it makes it harder for him to get to that point. And I think that for a major change in the character, I mean, it's so major that even Nolan was like, I don't know if we should do that. I think it deserves more treatment in the film than he screams, he cries, and then in the next scene he's all like, I'm shooting down your drones, I'm flirting with this girl, and now I work at the planet.
Yeah, it's
that was a very odd transition.
Yeah.
I won't just
his recovery period was
but what was it? When did they tell you? When did they ever say how far?
That's true. They don't give you an idea.
You could argue. You could argue
that he went and got his journalism degree because now he works at the Daily Planet.
It could have been 5 years.
He's 48 now, guys.
Yeah.
But they're young. I mean, everyone looks the same, but they weren't old in the first place. What I'm saying is, I know it probably wasn't 5-10 years later, but you don't know.
But then my
I would guess it was at least months later.
But
I would say it
though,
was at least months later.
Is that goes back to the other complaint I had? Is that for me to figure that out, I'm writing their movie for them. I shouldn't have to be writing.
But I don't have to because I'm okay with the fact that it probably was. It doesn't even bother me.
Well, but clearly it bothers a lot of people.
I think it absolutely does.
I'm not a lone voice in the wilderness.
No, not at all.
If you have this many people that have a problem with that, then clearly it maybe deserved a little bit more screen time.
It could have, but I also feel like people are holding on to that.
Microsoft wrote this movie.
Holding on to that idea of gee gosh Lois or that swell, that kind of idea of that Superman, and that 1978 Superman is not going to work.
But I promise you, I am not that guy.
I hear you.
I could have been convinced that I actually when I read this article and I read how they wanted that to appear to me. I like that. I like what they're going for. I like that he's if they really come back in the next one and they say that this is the reason I don't kill because I did and that was like I probably shouldn't have done that. Then, but at the same time though, I kind of feel like they're wanting to have it both ways because on the one hand they're telling us that there was no other choice he could have made, and on the other hand, they're saying, but he'll never do it again. So next time
Doomsday.
So next time he will let them kill that family, turn that family of 4 into a family of 8.
Or when General Zod comes back in the third one. Let's be honest.
Here's the difference between Batman and Superman, though. Okay, Batman at the end of Batman Begins doesn't have to kill Ra's al Ghul, and he does, right? Superman has no choice. He can either save a family or he can kill Zod. To me, that's one of the reasons why I've always been bothered by the end of Batman Begins because of how he kills Ra's al Ghul, and I'm not bothered by Superman because I feel like it's a rational choice. I don't think that you should have to hold a character that's adapted from a comic book into an ideal.
75-year ideal.
Yeah, right. I think there has to be
75 years of stories.
I think there has to be some rational thought to it, and I don't think that there was any way you can rationally make it where Zod does not keep on going the way you wrote it.
Right.
Well, I also think he says that. Zod says, he's like, I am going to kill everyone on this planet.
He says, I'm never going to stop. Yeah. Whatever you do to me, I'll get out and kill more.
This is going to end with either I'm dead or you're dead.
Purpose.
Exactly.
Which means you really can't judge him for it, because that's his heritage.
Well, I think that actually helps the character be...
You're a little bit of a racist.
Well, I think it gave his character a little more... gravitas than just, I'm angry because I got stuck in the zone.
Right.
But I mean, when he kills him, I actually gasped in the audience, and I don't think there was a lot of people. It was just kind of quiet.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh well, I guess that's why he doesn't kill now.
There was definitely that moment where I was like, huh.
But it didn't bother me, and we talked about this before, the whole Nolan thing,
right?
And I felt like
because that was your theory as to what that meant.
Point. Yeah, this is the reason why,
and mine too.
Yeah, but my point is that's exactly it. Based on the information we're provided in the movie, it is a theory. There is nothing to hang your hat on to say, because it's like, and the next 2 times you see Superman and then the movie's over, like he makes no reference to Zod. He doesn't seem like maybe he's feeling a little down today. Like I
guarantee you in the next movie, I have no doubt that we're going to see some sort of super nightmares happening,
and
a little super PTSD.
Yeah, he's gonna be thinking about it.
I think you'll absolutely see it. I think you'll absolutely see it now that they've seen a lot of people's reaction. But then the problem I have is that they shouldn't have to use the next movie to fix the last movie.
They need to wrap up their movie in the current film that they're doing.
Like, this isn't like a mystery that they left hanging like, is Zod alive? Is he not alive? Like, it's not like you have to see the next one to find out.
It was pretty finite.
Like, it was like they don't reference it again. And like I said, that's a major change for this character, a major change for an iconic figure. And I just think that it deserved better treatment. I don't disagree with what they're trying to do. Like, I could, like, there's a version of that they could film that I would really like.
Well, they may
have.
Wasn't
that version.
I mean, I haven't heard anything about an extended edition.
Yeah,
I believe there. Yeah, I think there is a director's cut that exists from the rumors.
There always is, especially on movies like this. So, like, it doesn't surprise me. But at the same time, I also shouldn't have to wait for the Blu-ray to decide whether I like a movie. Like, I saw a movie, not a trailer.
Well, let me show it to you this way. So this is the way I took it. So they did end it like that. They didn't expound upon it. They didn't make Superman sulk and do all that stuff. But I interpreted it. Dan interpreted it the same way, I believe. Joe, maybe. I mean, how many people took the ending and what happened after it killed, and his yell and his anger and his distress, everything? I mean, who took that as
sadness? I mean, he killed the last guy from his homeworld.
Yeah, but so you interpret it the same
except for the billions that are within him.
Well, we don't talk about that.
but the point is, though, that
odd pro-life message
that Goyer, is the artist here. That was his vision, and that's how the art was interpreted by me, a few others here. And I know you didn't get it from that, but we all thought the same thing.
So obviously you're dumb,
right? But honestly, though, I would agree with that if I was literally the only person that had, like, you know what I mean?
Well, we're not literally the only people that think that it was okay.
Like, if I was walking out of Crying Game going, I think it was just a large clitoris, like, that would be different.
Just because you and a few others do,
it's not a few,
but there's a few others on our side too. So what I mean is that it's just the interpretation of the art, and we got his description.
But clearly, it's not an interpretation because they were trying to say that.
But we got it,
and they failed.
But not everybody did, and that's a failure right there.
They failed for a significant number of people.
But I also think I think they have succeeded in making people like us sit around and talk about it.
Yeah,
like this movie's been out for a week, and we are still talking about a scene of a 30-second scene, if that, in a 2.5 hour movie.
I want to know how Lois Lane got there so quick. By the way, did that bother anybody else?
Way out in the city.
She was like in the epicenter, and they fly like 4 miles away.
The city had clearly been evacuated because that's how nobody else died.
This is what I will say about the collateral damage. Here's what I will say about the collateral damage.
And I have an article about that.
Nobody said anything about collateral damage in the Avengers.
No,
like the Avengers, there is a massive alien invasion
New York City,
in New York City, and they are destroying everything.
And I like to tease it for the collateral damage, but like I'm willing to overlook.
Don't go there yet. I've got more points before we move on to damage.
Oh, sorry, he's got a bullet point. He's got a flow chart. He has a PowerPoint.
So that was my only thing about the collateral damage. I do agree. I was actually more surprised. So as the resident comic aficionado, there is a comic book produced by Image Comics called Invincible by Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley and Cory Walker. There is a fight at one point in the book between Invincible, who is a Superman-style character, against another Viltrumite, which is the name of the alien race that this kid is from. And it is eerily similar to the fight between Superman and Zod. Like they're set in the real world, and they are destroying pieces of, giant buildings are being crushed. And there's a scene at the end that I think where the government ends up taking this Viltrumite's body, and he's not dead. They take him and they kind of lock him away. I would not be surprised. I mean, granted, in the Nolan verse, when they kill somebody, like when they kill Two-Face or they kill Ra's al Ghul, they stay dead.
Right.
I would not be surprised to see Zod show back up.
Well, and they
make a big deal about the government's involvement in this movie. And so I would not be shocked if the government takes that body.
And that was one of my complaints. Is I hate how the comic book movies are so quick to kill off their villains because I love Michael Shannon. I thought
he was a great Zod.
I think he's a great Zod. I wish they gave him more to do. Like I felt like it kind of got reduced to just him screaming.
Yeah.
But I love that actor, and I think he was a great choice for Zod. And I just hate the fact that they have this great villain and then he's dead. And so that didn't sit well with me. Back to the damage in the Avengers. There was a line where they say something about. They do at least reference the fact that they
destroyed New York
and that innocents were killed. There was a line about that, which caught me off guard because that's the first time I ever have seen a movie like that because it's not the first movie where they just tear down a city.
Sure,
but it's the first time I've seen a movie like with disaster porn like that where they kind of reference the fact that they killed some people.
I will also say there's a moment. Superman and Zod have crashed through a building, and there are people running on the street. I don't know if it was just me. Like that hit a certain chord only because granted, I understand that it was 12 years ago,
right?
But that the 9/11 references to me shook me more than I expected.
And the ash falling,
exactly, yeah.
I was like, ugh.
and that's part of the problem too. Is that these movies are made in a different world now. Like we're post 9/11, so like we know what it looks like when a skyscraper comes down.
Right.
We know how long it takes to evacuate New York City, which is essentially what Metropolis is. Like we know those things, and so it's a little bit harder to remove yourself and go, it's just a movie, because it's a movie that looks like CNN.
We saw this. We watched this happen.
Here's what's going to happen because of all this, though. I think one of the reasons they haven't referenced it as much is I think it's another thing that's going to be referenced in the next movie. It's going to set up Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's going to use the destruction.
The hero of Metropolis?
He's going to use the destruction that Superman and Zod did to Metropolis as a reason that Superman can't be trusted, and why, and it's going to set him up as the protector of Metropolis, and keep Superman as an outsider,
which would be a great plot point. I just wish we saw right now I feel like they're trying to make up for the fact that they did that, rather than like it was like a cohesive plan of like we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and it will cause A, B, and C, and like I feel like they're more trying to retcon their own movie, and they're only on the second one, and they're not even on the second one yet, and so that's.
See, I don't look at that as a retcon. I would see that as something that was maybe in the plot from the beginning.
Looks like a bigger picture.
I also think I think Goyer and Nolan are both really good at leaving little things that
Chekhov's gun.
Exactly, yeah, that come back in later movies. I thought he did that in. Man, was there something in The Dark Knight that they kind of dropped a hint at something in the very? Oh no, it was The Dark Knight Rises when the patch is wrong on the Batwing. and then they go back at the end of the movie. They're like, Bruce fixed it 3 hours ago in movie world.
Right.
So I have a feeling we're going to see some stuff come back up in Superman, Man of Steel Part 2. I don't really know what they're going to call it. I hope they don't.
But I think also the difference with the destruction in this versus the destruction in the Avengers is that I think Superman. I feel like Superman's a little, and again, I wasn't like horrified by it, but I feel like Superman's a little bit more morally culpable because in the Avengers you had aliens attacking New York City, where in Superman you're like, where are we going to have this fist fight? I don't know. How about in the most populous city in the world? Sounds good.
I did find that very weird.
Like, try to fly him out of Metropolis. I kept on being like, is he really just going to continue to smash each other into buildings?
You don't even see him try.
No,
he doesn't even make an effort.
But on his first day on the job, I would just argue that he's not thinking that way. It's his first fight, his first major fight with anybody.
I don't disagree. I agree. Your point is
the most powerful person there is in
the most powerful person on the planet who has spent the last 20 years secretly protecting people and using his powers in covert ways so other people don't get injured.
But he's never had to fight someone like Zod. He's in the moment and he just doesn't know
but he has in a way trained his whole life for this. He has trained to like protect people. He's not trained. He's never really trained himself to be on offense, but he's trained himself to be on defense. And in the defense is where he fell down.
Oh, I agree. Every time in the comics, whenever he gets into a brawl with a Metallo or a Bizarro or Doomsday, actually in the fight with Doomsday, he ends up trying to. I think there are thought balloons or whatever they're called, where he's or like little like expose boxes,
right? Yeah.
Where he's like, I gotta get him out of here. Inner dialogue, very good. I have to get him out of here. This is doing too much damage.
Right.
But I think Kevin, you're right. I think he didn't really know what to expect. Like when he goes into the fight with Zod, that starts in Smallville. Like he starts in the cornfields.
Talk about pre-Zod. Talk about not Ursa, but who is she in
Feora?
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. How every single time he tries to fly away, he tries to throw someone into something and get out of there. They drag him back in.
Well, it's not even that, and he can't. They are ready to fight, and he's like, oh, and there's nowhere I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah,
I just got the suit.
Right, yeah, I just put this thing on, man.
Yeah. And that's my argument is that the Zod's fight 2. Okay, by fight 1 didn't teach you that much.
Right.
And then you've got, the general of the entire Kryptonian army that you're fighting here. And I just think that it was more realistic to have him not know what to do in that moment. And he's trying to save the Earth and every single human being on it that Zod's trying to murder.
Can I tell you how much I wanted them to call that big guy Non? Like I was like, can you just call him just once? That's all I needed.
Call him something else.
They don't call him, and they don't reference him. They just reference him as like Feora's bodyguard.
I feel like he is Non.
That's what he is. Like he's got the look.
Something,
yeah, and I was like, just come on. All right, fine, don't do it. I guess your heat vision doesn't work. I guess, damn it.
Well, what I wanted to ask, if we can, before we move off of the killing thing. Okay. And you mentioned that this is not what Superman does. Superman does not kill. And when I make the argument, well, he has, then those end up being stray panels. But I don't think they're stray panels. I mean, you're talking about a Superman that maybe didn't kill for 50 years, but he's been, let's say, he was rebooted 2 times after 50 years and killed twice in 50 years. And this is also a reboot of the movies. So why does the reboot of the movies have to be a 75-year-old Superman? He killed in more recent comics, and he killed in this one.
Okay, I'll tell you what. It's because he's got 4 titles that come out, plus one-shots and annuals. I mean, there's probably 150 different Superman comics in a year. And he's killed twice. And we have a 2.5-hour movie and he's already killed a guy. So the weight of his actions, they're weighted more because it's in a film, because it's a compressed story. It's not set against the backdrop, and it doesn't show the whole. When he does kill, like he kills the 3 Kryptonians.
Pre 87 reboot, the Alan Moore story, Kurt Swan, I think, drew
the Whatever Happened to Man.
That's an
imaginary story anyway.
But it was technically supposed to be the last Superman story.
But it was still imaginary.
It was. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember if he kills the Ultra Humanite. Is that who he kills at the end of that?
It's been a while. I don't. Yeah.
But and then they jump. They do the whole mustache and the wink at the George Reeves wink at the camera. This is who I am.
Right.
He kills the 3 Kryptonians in Superman Volume 2, number 22, I believe, by John Byrne. And I think he was faced with a similar situation where he's got Zod, Ursa, and Nan. And he's like,
and then they just kill a whole planet.
Yeah,
they
like
took out a whole planet.
You're forcing my hand. And if you keep reading those issues, he struggles. Like he struggles with it a lot. He gets kind of darker.
But then that goes back to my complaint about the movie is that you don't see. I
think you make a valid complaint. Yeah. I think, but they don't give us a time frame. So in the issues we have a time. We have like months.
Yeah. Well, it's and I think there is kind of a time frame if they've already deployed drones.
Correct.
Hunting for them. Right. I mean, they didn't just turn around and go, "Oh yeah, get those out of the closet."
And the Daily Planet's rebuilt.
Yeah.
Like so, it has to be.
There is. I understand what you're saying because I mean it's like it's a jump, but I also felt like they owed the audience an upbeat ending.
And I think you still could have. I think you still could have had your upbeat ending. I just think I needed something, even if it was just a little speech about how I'm not going to do that again.
Like how I made a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, like that. This can never happen again.
I honestly do. I think if they're going to play up the Clark-Lois relationship further, which is pretty obvious, it's the way that they're not going to bury the lead with that one. Like that was one of the character things that I
going to bury something in Lois.
Like a shotgun right through her back.
God, I hope we just bring a kid into it again.
I like the idea that they changed her character to be smart. They play her up all the time that she's this Pulitzer prize-winning author.
You got a Pulitzer
writer, and she can't figure out that when the dude slouches and puts on a pair of glasses, she can't figure out that he's Superman.
When you talk about major changes, right? Like I didn't have a problem at all with him knowing.
No, didn't care.
No, it actually thought it made more sense.
I had a bigger problem with. Like the whole military can't figure out who he is, but she talks to a dude at IHOP and she's pieced it together.
Beat reporter figures out.
And he's in his Superman suit, like when the cops come up that one time.
On the Kent farm.
Clark!
Yeah. I did think she called him Clark way too much, like while he's in the suit.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought talking about lazy parts of the screenplay where you just get a montage and she figured it out. And you see her interviewing these people, but ostensibly there's no connection between those different locations he was in because he would change his name and become something.
Well, wasn't
she connect?
I think she was just following reports.
There's only so many guys picking up buildings. I mean,
what's that?
There's only so many guys picking up buildings.
Right.
I mean, another guy picked up a building. That's crazy.
Yeah, there were no connections. She went to each point and just found out little bits of data from each one, and they let her.
But if it was that obvious that it's just if it was as obvious as people picking up buildings, and she shouldn't have been the only reporter on that trail either. Like,
but that's actually one of the things that I like.
That's something that I'm willing to look past because it's like we're not here. It doesn't need to be all the president's men only about Superman. Like I'm not looking to see her turn into Woodward and Bernstein. But so it's like I'm willing to look past it. But it's like that was just another thing that I thought was kind of lazy.
I think I liked it because I like the idea of finally getting a strong female character. I will fight that fight to the day they make a Wonder Woman movie. Is that the female characters and I don't even like the way the Black Widow is portrayed in the Avengers. I thought it's a lazy approach. Like Natasha Romanoff is a badass and she will kill you without thinking twice. And in this one, in the Avengers. I know we're going back to the Avengers.
Sure.
She's cracking jokes.
Movie. It's okay.
All right, take it easy. Just because it made more money doesn't make it a better movie.
I never said that. I said it's a better movie.
But I think the lack of a strong female character. I would even take a Kara Zor-El at this point. Like if they could just bring in Supergirl or something, I think the route that DC has missed the boat. I think they've got a character in Wonder Woman who has been around almost as long as Superman.
Yeah, but it's never had anything approaching sales.
Backing away from it.
And I don't. If they put the Warner Brothers machine behind a Wonder Woman movie and
the same machine they gave us Green Lantern,
I don't. We're not going to talk about that one.
The same machine they gave us Superman Returns.
But it's Joss Whedon sign a non-compete with Marvel?
It must have because Jesus. But they gave us Man of Steel, and I think that they're on the right track. So if we can get, I'm going to tell you right now, go to Review STL, check out my Justice League fan cast. Gina Carano as Diana, you're in. It doesn't hurt that Gina Carano and Henry Cavill are dating in real life. So you get the
Maybe
Superman.
there's more to that. How did they meet?
I don't know. Don't know. But I do. I think finally we get a strong Lois. Not downplaying Margot Kidder's interpretation or Noel Neal's interpretation.
I can forget about Margot Kidder.
I mean, okay, the first movie, she everything in the first movie worked because it was what that movie needed to be in 1978.
It's a different movie, so it worked.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's back up and talk about the original because it's a good movie, but it's definitely flawed.
It's it's got a pimp. It's got a pimp with a hey, woo, yeah, you're like, what?
And I think people forget, sometimes with movies like that, you have to look at them in a historical perspective.
Yeah.
And that, for its time, that was the most serious treatment of comic book material we had ever seen.
No, I think it holds up.
Yeah,
I definitely think it still holds up.
There were certainly parts that make me cringe. I watched it with my son, and he was like
the running at the beginning by the train. Oh God, every time.
It hurts.
Do you know that the woman on that train is Noel Neill?
It's Noel Neill.
Oh yeah,
from the original.
And Kirk Allen.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah,
he's the dad.
Yes.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah,
But yeah, so there are parts of that movie that are just beautiful and
it's gorgeous. I mean, they nail Smallville.
Yeah. But there are a lot of parts of that where you're just like, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see that.
Showing its
audiences weren't discerning about comic books. I mean, you could not have Superman fly around the world and turn back time.
I was 8 when that movie came out, and you couldn't do that. Yeah. I was just like, at 8, I was like, I think that was the first time I ever dropped an F-bomb. I was like, are you effing kidding me?
Is it any worse than
just happened?
Is it any worse than the Super Kiss? It's like, oh, by the way, I'm Superman. Here, let me make out with you.
Super Kiss is really bad, but no, I think it is worse.
Or the S. See, in Superman 2, the S. I'm like, I remember sitting there like, I don't think that's a power, is it?
That's not a.
Is that new?
Have you seen how it should have ended?
Did he just throw a condom at them? What is that?
There's a really
he kills Zod in Superman 2 too.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's another comic book death where they're all it's off screen. Yeah, so you don't really know what happened.
I don't think Superman would do that. Right? Would he really throw him up 50 feet into the air and let him fall to his maybe death? He wouldn't. But he's Superman.
Superman wouldn't.
It's a far cry from snapping his neck and dropping his cold, lifeless body.
But why is one better than the other?
You're assuming.
He's still
That's the thing. They do that in comic books. I mean, how many times has the Joker fallen off a cliff and come back, and he has no superpowers?
I don't think we hooked Zod up to a heart monitor and saw that he wasn't alive.
I do.
Okay?
I honestly think we're going to see Zod again.
Maybe it's a Kryptonian sleeper hold.
Yeah, exactly. It just sounds like
okay. He's
the Vulcan nerve pinch.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Maybe when they pull him out into yellow sunlight, he'll revive or something.
That's actually. I mean, they've touched on that in the comics at certain points where Superman has been away from Earth or something, and he doesn't have his powers, and as soon as he gets back to Earth, his wounds are healed. There's actually a really cool Superman versus the aliens where he is he's off Earth. He gets implanted with a queen alien, and it's starting to hatch in his chest. By the time he gets to Earth, his chest starts to heal back up, and he's able to literally, like hawking a loogie, is spit this alien queen out. But it's one of those things where we assume he's dead, but
that's some really great writing.
It's amazing.
A loogie-sized alien doesn't seem like that's a problem.
Why didn't I think of that?
All of the body is connected to the throat. So.
But then on the flip side, even, if he's still alive, then I think it negates the story. They're claiming to try and.
No, I don't think so. I think Superman thinks that he killed him.
Yeah, but
he thinks that he's taken him out.
That's always kind of the out that they use in these stories. Like, well, he's not really dead, and so it kind of removes their moral culpability.
The Carrie ending where the hand comes up.
And so it's like. I think that lessens that story. I know what you're saying, that he didn't think he killed him. So he still made that decision. It's like if I put a gun to your head and thought it was full and pulled the trigger and it was empty, I still made the decision to kill you.
Yeah, let's not
do
that.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Tom, put that down.
It's going to be an odd ending to the first podcast. But
we killed a guy.
Yeah.
No one thought we were capable.
Yeah, see, there you go.
There's going to be podcasts
now. Tell your friends.
But is he really dead?
But my point is, you still made. So he still made. So I agree with that. He still made the decision, but it's just like I still think that it would lessen the story that they're claiming that they want to tell. Which
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're.
I feel like they're trying to have it both ways. At that.
I personally think they will probably stick with it, but I would not be shocked to see him show up at a later date.
By the fourth movie, you got Nuclear Guy, and so I mean, who knows how that happens?
The biggest things about that movie that drives me insane:
his hair.
Besides the hair,
we're up against a hard break here, John.
That it was clearly filmed in Ontario.
There is a scene where a strand of Superman's hair is holding a 1-ton ball of and he walks up with a pair of wire cutters. Like, I got it.
Yeah.
and cuts it.
All right. It just.
As a kid,
what's wrong with that?
If his hair is holding a 1-ton weight, how is he able to cut it?
Those were kryptonite hedge clippers.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Come on. Think about it.
Yeah, they don't.
Thanks a lot, John Cryer.
They don't explain that.
No, that is also an assumption.
So let's talk about this. Is one of the other things that Kevin and I thought tremendously about that just really rubbed me the wrong way, and that was the usage of Jor-El, the Kryptonian Jacob Marley.
Sir, we are going to have a battle about
other words. Yeah, that was like the first thing you like when you finally spilled, because you wouldn't tell me until I saw the movie.
I wanted to see the movie,
and I appreciate that.
Unencumbered.
I mean, there is elements of it that I'm like, well, I mean, it's sort of following canon, and Brando, except for the second movie, he decided not to be in it, and they just used like a life mask of him.
But did they use his mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were going to use him, and they decided not to, because it was going to just be another 7. It was $7 million.
Yeah, and I think that at that time, based on if calculate salary to screen time, he was the highest paid actor ever.
It lasted until something like the late 90s in terms of screen time per.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of the most expensive film roles of all time.
Yeah.
But they did do that, and if you actually watch the extended edition that's on the Blu-ray box set, he actually does appear to him. So they do have FaceTime. It's not just like his little ghost
talking head.
With that beautiful white hair.
And I will say, I didn't like it in that one either. That was, I will say, I gave it a little bit more latitude. One, because I saw it when I was a little kid, and so it was kind of grandfathered into the hey, wait, that doesn't make sense world. Yeah. But it's still, I didn't really like it there either. And I felt like they used it a lot less, and I felt like they used it differently.
There was a point where I was like, okay, I think we're gonna need to be done with that, because he's opening and shutting doors on the screen.
Right.
Whoa, or something.
Right. I was on board at first. Yeah. I was like, okay, and
he does everything. He's gonna Roomba over in the corner.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what else has he done?
Oh, and I have here's your non-soy latte. Yeah. And
I made you a sandwich.
Thanks, Jor-El. Thanks, Dad.
And so, in the original one, I felt like it was more like a hyper interactive choose your own adventure novel, because he was answering questions that it's pretty obvious that somebody would ask. You could kind of be intuitive about somebody's going to ask, like, what? Where am I from? Here's where you were from. Oh, what was that like? Here's what that like. So okay, I could kind of roll with that.
It's like flashcards.
Yeah. And so where in this one, it's like he's like I said, he's like
highly interactive.
He's like a Kryptonian Jacob Marley, and he just appears to her, and he holds her hands, and he walks her around places, and I just but when I say it's used differently, also is that. In the first one, it was used poorly, but it was used for lazy exposition. It was like, here's some backstory that we need to fill you in on, and here's a quick exposition dump. Now we return you to your film already in progress. Where here, he's driving the action. Like, he's another character in the film, affecting the outcome of things that were going on. And I just really had a hard time buying that.
I think I'm all right with the idea that he is this AI in these Kryptonian ships. I think...
technology that he clearly must have invented all on his own and kept secret.
Correct, because he's Jor-El and he can do that kind of thing.
While inventing the ship that could fly his son.
He's really smart,
and has amazing time management skills. I think this guy really gets the most out of his day.
Where they lost me on this is Clark doesn't become Superman until Jor-El tells him what to do, and I think that is a key that is missing. That's not right. Where Jonathan Kent, his Earth father, is like, you need to stay hidden. Don't do that. They're going to take you away. And in the comics, Jonathan Kent is the catalyst. He's like, look.
No, they flipped it completely.
They did. I think the
morality comes from Kansas.
Yes, yeah, that's where he is human. And I think they get that you get some of that from Diane Lane's Martha Kent. You get a little bit of that. The line in Superman 1, Superman the movie, where what is that actor who played Pa Kent?
Glenn Ford.
Glenn Ford, thank you. Said, "Son, you are here for a reason. Mm-hmm. You're not here to throw a football. You're not here to do that." And I think that gets
run next to a train.
Exactly. I think that gets missed in this movie, where Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent give Clark that human side. In this one, I think they missed the boat a little bit with the switching of Jonathan and Jor-El, where Jor-El's like, look, you are going to help these people. That's why I sent you there. I think that was my only hang up. And I feel like
that is a problem. I will also agree, not that you have to work hard to get me to agree with problems about this movie, but that it's like it does kind of lessen the impact of like his strength, his physical strength is from Krypton, but his inner strength is from Earth.
Yeah, his resolve and his heart and his never say. I mean, he is DC's Captain America.
Right.
He is DC's version of Captain America.
I know.
They are their
chronologically, it's the other.
Right. They are their counterparts.
Right. They're never say die. And noble about man and America.
Exactly. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to fight for you.
He's the moral core.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that does absolutely come from Smallville, where Jor-El gives him like, look, you're from this planet. We were gonna die. I love you. Yeah. Deuces.
And the fact that he's the moral core is also why I was so put off by the killing. That I thought that if they're going to have the moral core make a decision like that, and I'm not saying it was an immoral decision, but it's a major shift, then it needed more screen time. It needed to be handled.
I'm with you. I think. Another 5 minutes of just...
And
I didn't have a problem with the killing, but I did have a problem with the, oh, by the way, here we are at the Daily Planet.
Right. Yeah. Like, it was like a leap.
And there was a major shift in tone of the film. Like, it instantly got lighter. And and I think I found it even more off-putting because I liked that version of the film much better. I like those last 3 minutes.
Yeah, you said that
better than anything that came before it.
You prefer a little more lighthearted.
I don't even know if I'd say lighthearted because if they went a dark route, just go a better dark route. Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like it went the dark way properly. You know?
Do you feel that those last few minutes were truer to what the general expectation of Superman is?
I think it's probably a more traditional take perceptually for most people. I think the version we got isn't that far off the mark from what the comics are currently. You know what I mean?
The comics, I'm going to tell you right now, the comics right now are, I'm going to cuss, are dog shit. They're terrible.
And I'm behind on reading them, so when I say currently,
anything in the new 50,
in the 90s.
No, anything in the new 52, man, they have missed, they give them armor, and they have just missed the boat. I think Andy Diggle and Tony Daniels did a 2-issue stint, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great." And then they both left the book due to editorial differences.
Right, and the reason, like when you say that I call stuff straight panels, but that's part of why I call things straight panels is because they put out so much product that. Like, you really kind of have to say, well, what's the overall pattern of this character? Not, here's something he did once. Because I can show you a cover of Superman where he's saying, buy war bonds, slap a Jap. But I don't want that in my Man of Steel movie.
I don't know. If they do that in a Man of Steel movie, I would be amazing.
It's a deleted scene. No.
You want to talk about controversy. Let's go
right. So you could point to I don't want the next Spider-Man movie to tell the clone story, right? Like
I kind of do. Like that was my last Spider-Man story for a long time. But I'd love me some Ben Reilly.
But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so that's why when I say, like, you have to look at the overall scope of a character, and the overall scope of Superman is certainly he's not a killer. And so when you have a 2.5-hour window to expose people to Superman and tell a Superman story and he kills somebody, it needs to be better. That being said, the end of the movie, I like that tone. And I thought it was better. Like, they had a couple lines that I liked that I really had.
Welcome to the Planet.
I love the Welcome to the Planet last line. I thought that was awesome, a great outline. Line. It was the first time in the movie that I smiled. That I was like, that was clever. Like I liked that. And so oddly, even though I didn't like the film, I was gonna say I didn't really like the film. I didn't like the film. Is that like
I think you were downright venomous.
Yeah. I believe when it was over, I said F that movie. Yes, I might or might not have said F that movie. But I will say I also left thinking I could give Superman 2 or Man of Steel 2 a shot because it's like I like those last 3 or 4 minutes better than anything that came before it. And there was all the brooding that was going on for the first hour where it's like I honestly
I was all right with that. I was all right with the idea of he has all of this power. The whole scene in the bar where the guy is picking on him,
cliche.
And I was
he literally dumped a beer on his head.
I know, and it was, and I think the idea, that Clark's like, I could snap this guy in half if I wanted to, but I can't expose myself yet.
I would like a scene that did that, but didn't do it quite so cliche riddled. Dan, you're making a face. I can't tell if you're with me or not.
The pouring of the beer, I was like, that was unfortunate.
It was too on.
I did appreciate that he crucified his truck.
Right.
You know,
but it was
with
too on the
telephone
nose.
poles.
Like literally, I'm going to dump. Like,
It
who
was,
does that?
yeah, especially because, the guy that did it, Napoleon complex or not, that guy knew he was going to get wiped. No matter how weak Clark might be, he was huge.
Right, I worked at Pops for 5 years. I've seen bar fights. Like that's not how they start.
I mean, the guy was a good 2 feet underneath Clark, so it was sort of like
it was one of those moments where I thought they were gonna pan down and he was gonna be like off the floor.
Right,
Yeah, off the floor.
Yeah, because he had to reach up really high to pour the beer.
Did he push him? Like, was there a scene where he tried to push him and with him, he doesn't move at all?
Yeah. And then he's and then he dumps the beer. Like, is that what happened?
I think so. I think he's like, why don't you leave her alone?
He had already figured out.
After the person you're trying to fight is an immovable object, I think you're gonna step away.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna call it a night.
Yeah, so I would have liked to seen that establish that same thing, but like that scene again was lazy.
It was a little, that was like, oh, okay.
But there was so much brooding, and then that goes back to the death thing. Like he does so much brooding about I have all this power and I don't know if I should use it properly, and then he kills a guy and we don't get any emotion from other than the initial reaction within the same scene. It doesn't color anything else for the rest of the movie.
But they went all in on that, on the reaction. I felt.
Oh yeah, I thought he delivered
like all in on.
I did think he let that scream go like 3 times, like in the movie. Like I think there's the scene where he loses.
Tornado.
Spoiler: Jonathan Kent gets sucked up by a tornado.
What's called real spoilers.
That's
You're
true.
okay.
All right, very good. The Jonathan
made it
Kent
this
death,
far.
Right. Jonathan Kent death, the killing of Zod. I feel like there was a is it when he goes after his mom? Is he screaming at him like, "How dare you touch my mother"?
It's the same kind of scream, but he does say, "Don't threaten my mother." That's when he sends him through the silos,
and then he's like punching him,
which I thought, you're Superman, you don't do that stuff too. But again, then I thought about it, and in the realistic world, if this is set in a realistic universe,
we're just going.
This is the first time.
This is it. That's the very first time he's ever had to even defend, and it's his anger, and it shows his immaturity, his emotion.
I agree completely.
That's believable, but that's
no. I think you're right. I think that first initial fight in Smallville, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Like, I don't think he realizes what he can do.
He probably looked back at that gas station and was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah, I mean, he didn't know he did that. They threatened his mother, and he just went nuts. It was emotion.
Like, I think anybody, if you threaten a child or a parent or a sibling, you're going to lose. Well,
or an AI of your father.
Well, that too. Which I honestly also think is going to come back up. I think we're going to see he deleted the Jor-El part of the AI.
Well, we need a Deus Machina from somewhere.
Yeah.
So
if say in the movie,
afraid of using those.
He did say in the movie to Amy Adams, Lois Lane, he said, "We probably won't meet again."
Yeah,
I mean, I take it as he's done. I mean,
Jor-El is done, yes.
Oh, right, Jor-El.
But the Kryptonian intelligence that may still be there could either be the Eradicator
or Brainiac.
Sorry, yeah, gotcha.
I mean, those are 2 options.
I'm not sure you can do Brainiac in a movie.
I disagree, man. I think you could do a Justice League movie with Brainiac as the villain. Lance Hendricks, who's the guy from Aliens 2, who was the cyborg. There's your voice of Brainiac.
Yeah, he'd be great.
And a guy who's coming to, I mean, if they do it like they do, I think the Superman the Animated Series had Brainiac as kind of like a Galactus-style character where he's he's trying to collect all of the information he can from worlds.
He was a big cloud?
He was not, no, different Galactus, but yeah. So I think if they play it that way, where he's coming to Earth,
Galactus, hosted by Rackspace,
he's coming to Earth to take its collective intelligence. You need Wonder Woman, you need Flash, you need a version of the Green Lantern, maybe not Ryan Reynolds.
But Ryan Reynolds
coming together.
Flash,
that movie wasn't his fault. He'd make a great Flash.
I said Barry Allen or Wally West. I don't care which one.
They should casted him. In fact, he was in talks to play the Flash.
He was originally,
and I was like, he would be perfect casting.
He'd be a great Wally West.
Oh, he'd be amazing.
I think he
as
would be a
Wally
great
West.
Wally West.
He can still do it.
I mean,
totally,
just like
Chris
Deadpool.
Evans.
Yeah,
I mean,
he'd be a much better Wally West than Barry Allen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because Wally West is just snarky and doesn't really like being the Flash, and so
I think that early Mark Waid.
Right, totally.
Very early. I don't want to do this, but I know I have to.
Yeah.
Where Barry Allen kind of has that Ernst
And and even the earlier stuff, who was writing? Was that Jeff Johns when it was?
Jeff Johns is the one that kind of brought him back to Johns and Scott Collins.
And I like when they first rebooted it with Wally West, where it was like, and he would make all these deals, like he would run organ transplants to the hospital so he could get medical care. Right. And like there was all sorts of like nice like little details like that.
What was that really fat friend he had? He had like.
I was gone from.
He had that black guy.
It was like gigantic.
And he had a nickname because he like suck things into him or something.
He was like a singularity or something. Like that.
I forget his. And it was like. That Crunch or something like that.
Yeah, that was not a highlight.
That character was a little much.
But
let's put him in the movie.
Let's do it. Yeah. But we should probably wrap up because we've been going for well over an hour. But I did have one other little Man of Steel story. I don't know if anybody saw this, but part of how they marketed the film to Christians. Did you see this? I thought this was interesting and a little more than just a little sleazy. This says the studio enlisted Christian-focused firm Grace Hill Media to promote Man of Steel, and they helped promote a lot of other films directly to the Christian market in the past. And it says that they brought them to early screenings, creating trailers that highlighted the film's religious themes. But here's the part where I thought it really got kind of sleazy. It says they also enlisted Craig Detweiler, a Pepperdine University professor and author of Into the Dark, Seeing the Sacred and Top Films of the 21st Century, to create a Superman-centric sermon outline.
Oh my
for pastors titled Jesus the Original Superhero.
Oh, very good. Look at that.
That's cringe.
Yeah, that takes it over the line.
Do you guys know Jor-El was pro-life?
Well, yeah, that's why he sent the codex away.
That was all. Well, that was a whole nother that was taken
full of fetuses.
Exactly. That was see, that's the thing. That's why I think we're gonna see Kara at some point is because those fetuses are around somewhere. Yeah. And why wouldn't there be a cousin to Superman or sister? That was one of the things that was taken out of the John Byrne stuff.
Yeah, I actually we didn't talk about that, but I enjoyed the fact that they finally spoke to Superman and positioning him as an alien. I thought that was one of the strong points of the movie. That it's never really been an issue in past movie versions of Superman. I also liked that Krypton was pulled a lot from that whole Byrne run. Yep. Where they really delved into, the science and the headdress, and just more of Krypton as a planet that had a history to it and wasn't just like, hey, Krypton, oh, goodbye.
We're an advanced society. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. And I thought that was an amazing part of the film. I mean, from the get-go, you get on Krypton, and the time they spent there, I mean, I loved it. I loved every inch,
Except for all the sets they reused from Attack of the Clones. I didn't like that.
We don't talk about that.
Did anyone else see that it looked almost exactly like the end of Attack of the Clones?
I did notice
the same platforms and everything, and the beast that you ride on, and
the senator where the senators were sitting did kind of look like Lord Palpatine.
There's so much design stuff in that film from the Krypton part that is the exact same, and I hated Attack of the Clones.
I don't think there's a person on the planet that liked Attack of the Clones.
So that's part of the Krypton part was kind of hard for me to swallow because it kept on giving me bad memories.
But no, I thought I was, like I said, the John Blake effect. I thought they took all of the good parts out of a lot of great Superman stories and were able to intertwine them together. And Krypton was no exception, I thought.
And Burton even had the little Kelix or whatever,
Yes. Yeah. There was definitely a robot.
Yeah, it was it was named Kelix.
Kelix. Yeah. And the birthing matrix, the ship. I thought the ship that they used in the movie was an updated version of the birthing matrix that Byrne used.
So it had a lot of influence from that Superman where he does kill.
Yes.
So they're borrowing from other stories that aren't that irrelevant because they're taking a lot of the same beats.
That 87 reboot, I definitely remember as a kid, they took his powers down. Before the reboot, he was a god. Oh my good lord, he could literally take two planets and smash them together. So in the reboot, they depower him. They make him a little bit more human.
Couldn't go to deep space.
He couldn't. Yeah, he had to hold his breath.
Right.
Stuff like that. So I thought that that reboot for me as a kid, I was 5 at the time, 5 or 6, that was my Superman for a long time.
Dan and I are making faces.
There we go.
It's time for you.
That was my Superman, and I thought I liked seeing those aspects taken out and put back into the movie.
Well, I guess we should wrap it up, but let's give everybody a chance to tell where they can be followed or seen online if they want to share that.
Sure. You can follow. This is Joe. You can follow me on Twitter at Joey Butts BUTTS 21.
It's Dan. You can find me on ballroomblitzkriegBop.com. I sometimes even post to it.
How about that?
You can follow me at Epic Fail, but it's not like fail and failure, but pretty close. Just EPICFAIL on Twitter. So.
Kevin Brackett, you can find me on reviewstl.com and Kevin R. Brackett on the Twitters.
Don't forget the R.
And I'm Tom O'Keefe, and you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on the Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. I actually
You're showing your age.
Yeah.
The Facebook.
The Facebook. Hey, that URL still works, man. The Facebook. That
I was
still
on
works.
FaceSpace the other day looking at my Roger Kubert.
So I guess if we can all